pick up ace-jack offsuit on the button. Onto the gun opens at 30. I call, we're heads up. The flop comes jack 6-5 with 2 spades. We have top pair, top kicker. The opponent bets 30 again. I'm probably best. The game is shorthanded, so just because the other player is under the gun doesn't mean that he won't have a wide range. This particular guy seems to be a little loosey-goosey. I try something out that I don't normally do. I raise to 70. It's slightly more than a min raise. It's kind of a small sizing, can be confusing for opponents, and this allows me to take control of the pot. While players are in difficult spots like this and contemplating what they want to do, I'm fairly good at getting live reads. In this instance, the player re-raises to 280, which is extremely odd to me. I was anticipating him calling, even with strong hands like sets, so that he could potentially go for the check raise on the turn. It seems to me that this player didn't want to fold for such a small amount and isn't entirely convinced that I'm all that strong, so he's going for a Hail Mary bluff. Maybe he has a draw of some sort. I call to see what develops and to keep his bluffs in. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. It's about as blank as it gets on this board. Onto the gun, isn't letting up. He fires for 320. It's a reasonable sized bet. I call. I really hope that I'm not getting taken to value town by something like queens. The river is the 8 of hearts. 9-7 makes it straight. The opponent checks. He might have an overpair, or perhaps he has a misdraw of some sort. I check back. The player doesn't seem to have anything, and he wants me to show first. I'm not interested in doing that. The player eventually shows that he has 10-7 of clubs, good for 10 high. He had a backdoor straight draw. That's it. The small raise on the flop induced my opponent to get way out of line. We win a big pot with top pair. I'd get moved to the main game shortly after. Here we pick up ace-9 suited under the gun +1. The guy on my right opens at 15 from under the gun. Typically I'd snap fold, but I want to get involved in some hands with Tom. He's mixing it up a lot. I call. Check raise Charles calls on my left. We go 3 ways to the flop. It's ace-3-3 rainbow. We have top pair, but our kicker isn't too great. Under the gun bets 75. What the hell? I can't imagine a good reason for anyone to play a hand this way, but that's Norwegian Tom for you. He's a crazy dude. Part of me wants to fold. Not a big part though. I call. I'm glad that Charles folds on my left. We're heads up. I think hard about a card that I'd like to hit. That's apparently all it takes. The turn is a 9. We drill top 2 pair. Norwegian Tom bets 150. My read is that he has exactly ace-king. I exhibit some patience with a call. My plan is to let him fire big on the river, and I can perhaps go for a raise then. The dealer puts out the deuce of spades. We still have top 2 pair. Under the gun bets 200. He overbet pot on the flop, and he bet fairly large the next 2 streets. Is there some chance that he has me beat and is holding a 3 or pocket aces? Should I just call? Nah. I'm sticking to my original plan. I raised to 500. It takes a little while to get all the chips out there. Tom doesn't like the situation he's in. He'd much rather be sipping a nice cold beverage and overlooking a fjord. Eventually, he calls. I turn over the ace-9. It's the best hand. Tom shows for the vlog that he has ace-7 offsuit. We get him for a large chunk. Couple orbits in, we're dealt ace-5 suited under the gun +1. I open to 40. The player on my left calls. The cutoff 3 bets to 130. It's a small sizing. I call for 90 more. The middle position player is getting a great price. He calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's 5-4-3 with 2 diamonds. We have top pair, a gutter, and a backdoor flush draw. It's not the worst. I check. The middle position player checks. The cutoff checks as well. He doesn't have much behind. You'd think he'd just jam with an overpair if he had one. I could very well have the best hand. The turn is the 4 of hearts. It shouldn't have changed anything. I bet 200 for protection against overcards. I'm most concerned about the middle position player possibly having some kind of medium pocket pair. Luckily he folds. The action's on the cutoff. Surprisingly, he goes all in for about 360 total. I'm not sure what to make of this. I call for 160 more. If he has me beat, I'll hopefully have some outs. We agree to run it once. The river is the jack of hearts. Hard to imagine that we have the winner. Yet somehow we do. The opponent turns over ace-king of spades. He didn't want to give up on it. We win a larger than average size pot with a lesser than average strength hand. Those definitely feel good. Not long after, I dealt pocket jiggities in the small blind. It's a 5-handed game, and decaf is actually randomly at the table. Neither of us knew the other would be there. He straddled from under the gun. The cutoff, who in this case is first to act, raises to 60. I don't want to flat and play this out of position, so I 3-bet to 240. The action's on decaf. He has this look in his eye like he's about to do something wild. He 4-bet jams for 1,070. I'm definitely going to call. He only has 830 more. It's a 5-10-20 game, and he 3-bet me once earlier in a hand that got to showdown, and it turned out he did it light with a weak suited ace. He might be ripping this light as well. The initial pre-flop raiser is taking his time to assess what's going on. DGAF has the cutoff barely covered. After thinking for quite a while, the cutoff calls for less. He might not really have much. It's 5 in the morning. He could just be looking for a way to double up or go home. It's kind of a strange scenario. It's very possible that I have the best hand. It's also very possible that one or both players have me beat. It's really only about 40 big blinds more for me to call, and I'm getting almost 3 to 1. I don't completely love it, but I'm stuck and a little annoyed that my previous bluff didn't get through. I call. It's a 3-way all-in that might break the game if I win it. The flop comes King 8-7 Rainbow. That's really bad for me because if I happen to be up against Ace King, I'm going to be drawing very slim. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. I'm losing to 10s now too, but at least I pick up a gutter for the straight. The river is the Queen of Spades. It's not likely that we have the best hand.
It's as bad as it gets for me.
Somehow we do have the best hand. No, we don't. DGAF has pocket kings for top set. He didn't actually have the best hand pre-flop. The other player has pocket aces. He Hollywooded earlier to induce a call from me, and it worked out. Well, not for him, but it worked out for DGAF to get nearly a full triple up. Maybe I could have avoided this one, but I'm not too mad at myself for calling off, given the dynamics of the game and the fact that I was getting a decent price. Before picking up Ace-King offsuit on the button, the player first to act opens at 30. I 3-bet to 100. The opponent 4-bets to 430 and only has 745 total. I have a pretty clear decision. I put in enough money to cover him. Not much thought from the opponent before he calls. Time to see who will be elected the champion. The flop comes 8-8-7 with 2 spades. Not ideal. The turn is the Queen of Hearts. That's a bad card. The river is the 3 of spades. It's going to be tough to win this one. It turns out we were dead after the flop. The opponent has all the 8s that a standard deck usually comes with. I definitely wasn't expecting to get it all in against pocket 8s. He makes the maximum though. As soon as I gain some momentum with small and medium sized pots, a big one goes the other way.
Not my day.
7:45.
It's bad enough to lose an all-in, but the pain doesn't stop there. A few days later, I see this tweet. Luckily, I'm fluent in Japanese. A lot of you guys may not be as cultured as I am and probably have no idea what this means, so I've gone through the effort of personally translating it for you. This is roughly what it says. Also, if you happen to beat me in a big pot, there's no obligation to post it on social media. An hour or two after the guy hit and runs, I'm dealt Queen 9 offsuit on the button. We're playing 3-handed, and I've once again built my stack up by winning some small and medium pots. We're skipping through those because they're not that interesting, and it's super tough to take notes on everything like I normally would while I'm playing 3-handed without holding up the game. Anyway, I opened to 30, the small blind calls, the big blind calls as well. All 3 of us are seeing the flop. It's King 10 deuce rainbow. We've got a gutter ball. It checks to me. I tend to play short-handed aggressively. I bet 40. This doesn't scare anyone off. The small blind calls, the big blind calls as well. The turn is the jack of diamonds. We hit a miracle card and have the second nuts. No one 3-bet pre-flop like they would with ace queen, so we essentially have the nuts. It checks to me. I have a chance to bet for value, which I haven't been able to do too much this session. I make it 110. Me having it, the Easter Bunny, and Santa all have something in common, and that's that the small blind doesn't believe in any of it. He calls. The big blind is even more of a non-believer. He raises to 300. It hasn't been my day up to this point. There's a good opportunity to get at least some back and limit the damage. The big blind only has 735 total. He should never have me beat, but maybe he has the same hand as me, a set, or 2 pair. I put in a stack of black chips. The small blind is getting the hint that some of the things that he didn't believe in could be reality. He folds. The big blind shoves for 25 more. I call. If this one goes my way, I'll be pretty content. Just don't pair the board to put out any more high cards. The river is the 6 of hearts. We still have the second nuts. And here comes a dagger. The player turns over ace queen for the higher straight. It turns out I was the non-believer. I still don't want to believe it. One more time, my comeback gets wiped out and I'm stuck piles.
Nice end, dude.
It's now daylight out. It's been brutal. I went a few hundred more before leaving, but altogether it's been a 4.5-hour session that I wasn't planning on playing that cost me over $2,500.